All right, everyone, it is 10:03. It is Wednesday, March 24th. We have with us Mr. Callahan, Mr. Grucci, Mr. Trotter, Mr. Braun. The quorum is present.
Thank you.
First, our minutes of our meeting of February 10th. A motion to accept those, please.
Motion.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none on the vote. Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Grucci?
Yes.
Mr. Trotter?
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries. And our March 10th Audit Committee minutes. Motion, please.
So moved.
On the vote, Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Grucci?
Yes.
Mr. Trotter?
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries. Lori, I'll turn it over to you for the CFO's report.
Okay. Included in your packages is the profit and loss statement versus budget for the month of January.
Lori,
So-
do you want me to try sharing my screen and putting that up?
Sure, if you can.
Okay.
Better than looking at me.
Yeah. We'll still see you, Laura.
Oh, darn. Anyway, thought that was my out. Anyway, so the profit and loss statement for the LDC for the month of January, the only activity that we had as far as revenue goes was our annual admin fees for the projects. That was generated $5,000. There were no other activity, just we paid a portion of our website every month, and that was it.
Did I do it right? Can you guys see this?
Yes,
Yes.
I can.
Perfect.
I can. Any questions on the report for the month of January?
Is everything on track? Is everything in a normal state? As far as where we
It
should
looks
be?
like it's on my face. No, it is. It's on track. I mean, this is what we expected.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
Motion?
Second,
Second.
thank you. Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Grucci?
Yes.
Mr. Trotter?
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries. Lori, you want to talk about audit of Paris?
Correct. First, I'm going to review with you the audit. The audit committee had met on March 10th with the external auditors, PKF, and that those notes are included in your package. So I'll go through with you quickly the financials. And I did also want to point out one small adjustment in the minutes. And when I get there, I'll explain. It's something that the partner had mentioned a number and he twisted it, but it was transcribed correctly, but it was twisted. It's nothing significant. I'll mention it in a few seconds. So the first few pages are the opinion, our opinion. It's a clean opinion starting on page 1. And then the next few pages is just an overall of the results. And then starting on page 7 is our financial statements.
Sorry if I'm making you guys dizzy.
That's okay.
You go a little fast, Lisa.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm trying to get to page 7.
7, you're almost there, coming around the corner.
Okay.
So
There we go.
this is our turnaround period for the LDC. So for all the times when we weren't sure how it would be in a sustainable fashion to be there at the end of the projects, because we had no revenue and no significant cash to talk about, we needed our cash to pay our normal insurance, our audited required statements, and other items. Now this year in 2020, we actually had 2 project closings that push us over the edge. So I do want to point out cash last year, 12/31/2019, was $282,180. And that's from the auditor's report. The item I mentioned earlier was in their minutes. They mentioned cash last year was $328,000. What in fact the 328 was alluding to was the change in cash. But again, it is exactly how he presented it. It was just a miss on the numbers when he presented it. So, does anybody have any questions on that?
Just one quick question, Laurie. I mean, you might have said this a moment ago, but I think I missed it. What caused our cash to double from last year to this year?
Sure, we had 2 project closings during 2020. We had Jefferson's Ferry and also Long Island Community Hospital. One was 160 and one was 175,000. They closed one last October 30th and one November 12th.
Okay, and we ended the year of 2020 with actual 614,000 cash on hand.
Cash on hand was 610,336. If you could see up top,
Okay,
right? So our fund balance was a net 614.
got it. Okay. Nice
So
year.
close, but just want to be clear on that.
Lori,
Good year.
I
In
wanted to
spite
go
of
back.
everything, it was a good year.
I wanted to
Sure.
go back to what you originally said on the 310, or could you explain that? Because I don't quite understand it. The discrepancy.
Lori, what
Okay.
page is that on? Just, Frank, basically what happened is the
On the
partner,
minutes, do you want to
misspoke.
open the minutes, Lisa? It's on page 3, line 22 in the minutes.
sure,
It's also on page 8.
I'm sorry?
It's also on page 8.
Oh, here, since I'm in this document, maybe
Sure.
this will work. Page 8. So, is this, okay. So Frank, when the partner was giving his presentation, he just misspoke. He glanced one number when he should have looked at the other one, and he just said the wrong number. But
Understood.
it's in the audit committee minutes, so we just didn't want anyone to go back and look at those and then look at the audit and say, this doesn't make sense.
I understand now.
We'll give him a pass. He's allowed to make a mistake.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? So going on with the financial statements. So again, on page 9 is the change in your cash flows for the year. And again, this is where you can see that change in cash was 328, not the balance in cash, as it was a misspoke in the minutes. And then the rest of the report are the standard financial statements. There's nothing new, nothing significant that I need to point out to you, but certainly if you have any questions, I've gone through these a number of drafts, so has Lisa and so has Fred. So we beat them up, pretty thoroughly. The last pages in the report on pages 17 and 18 is a required opinion that we get because we're subject to a government standing audit. And it also is a clean opinion. Right now, these reports, as you can see, are in draft format till they're accepted by the board. Are there any questions?
If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to accept the report, and so we can submit this financial statement as part of our Paris reporting.
So moved, Marty Callahan.
Is there a second?
Second, Felix Grucci.
On the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mr. Trotta,
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries. I'll make one other comment. Felix and I were on another Zoom call yesterday with an accounting firm. And one of the things they mentioned, well, let me back up. We take for granted that we have a clean opinion. The comment that was made in this other call yesterday was that accounting firm has seen a number of situations where they've given an opinion of a going concern, which means basically if the companies or organizations don't get their act together, their ability to continue as a going concern is definitely in question. So as I said, we take for granted that we have a clean opinion, but it is very important.
I too have seen that, Fred, this year. The next item I wanted to review with you is a draft of the Paris reports.
Or you want the annual report first, which,
Sure.
okay, I'm going to share my screen again because I'm getting very proficient at this.
Thank you, Lisa.
It's like 2 clicks. It's not really anything that impressive, but
Okay.
I'm on it.
So included in the packages is a draft copy of our annual Paris report. The LDC report, don't let it be deceiving. It's only 24 pages. Wait till we get to the IDA. But anyway, I wanted to point out the Paris report has been completed. It has been reviewed. It still needs to be updated to incorporate copies of the final issued financial statements now that they've been accepted. And once this is all done, it's an electronic submission. It typically is due March 31st. There was an extension granted to another 60 days. And our goal is to get this done timely and not need that extension. I'll go through just the, I have like a cheat sheet explaining each area. It's not in your package because I figured it's just easier to do this. The first couple of pages just talk about the governance of the organization. The next couple of pages, starting on 2-4 and on down, talk about staff and benefits. Currently, there is no staff or benefits at the IDA.
LDC.
Sorry, LDC. Thank you, Lisa. And the starting in section 2.8 is where we list out our projects. That's on page, I apologize, Lisa, I should have told you what page it is.
Okay.
And that is just a summary of the debt and where the balances are. We've confirmed all that debt independently. And the last page is just our annual submittal when it's all done. There is another section in Paris. So this is one filing. There's another section in Paris, which is also included in your packages, which is a.
Lori, I'm sorry, before I switch to it, did anyone want to see anything else? I know you have it in your packet. So if did you have any questions on this part before I switch my screen again?
Not a question, just a request. When you bring up the next one, if it's the same kind of typeset, could you just enlarge it a little bit for me?
Yes, I think I can. Hold on.
Yeah, if you hit that plus button,
Yep.
there you go.
There we go.
You mean you want to be able to see it too? Okay, sorry, but I can't see it myself. Okay, I'll now go to the next one, Lori.
Yes.
Okay.
The next is the procurement report. This is another report within Paris that is due the same time frame. And pretty much what it does is the first page is a summary of if we have policies, which in fact we do. And then the next page is a summary of any expenditures over a certain threshold, which would be one was our insurance. There were no other expenditures that would fall into a required procurement transaction listing. There are 2 other sections within the Paris report, which are not presented here because Paris makes it so smooth. One section is just called certified financial audit. And I can't print that section or even try to print that section because I have to embed the financial audit in order to present the report. So it's a one-liner pretty much just stating that. The other section is the investment report. Again, it's a one-liner and we just include the investment report, which was part of the audit. We don't have investments, but we're still required to do an investment audit report. Are there any questions?
Laura, you need a motion to be able to submit this to Paris, correct?
Absolutely.
Motion made by Felix Grucci.
Second,
Second, Marty Callahan.
are there any questions on the Paris material? Some of it is confusing, some of it, once you put it into Paris, it's tough to get it back out. But it is what it is. If there are no questions on the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mr. Trotter,
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries. Thank you.
I wanted to mention one other thing. We had discussed this previously. New York State OSC is starting a review of the LDC. Lisa and I had an initial conversation with the people, and they are going to start submitting document requests to us on April 1st. I explained to them that this is not the time to start another audit. Well, we're trying to wrap up 2 significant ones. They understood that. Lisa, I don't know if you want to add anything about the conversation we had with them.
It was an initial conversation, so I think it just really started the ball rolling. The one thing that they did tell us that I think is pertinent is that the audit period will be from January 1st of 2020 to March 31st of 2021. But we've asked them to give us everything in writing so that we have everything defined and everything organized and everything sort of laid out for us. But that was the only piece that I felt was a tangible. The rest of it was how they do the audit. You should also be aware that they have told us that they intend to interview, they intend to interview some of our board members. But I expect that we'll have more information come April 1st. There is information that we can share if anybody is interested on sort of a general overview of how their audits work. Basically, it starts out with risk assessment, which they're doing right now, and then there's the field work, which is sort of the bulk of the audit, and then it ends with the summary of findings and the written report. But they have a website that sort of details that. If anybody's curious about it, we can share it. But really, it's the right now that they're gathering all the information. It's just begun. But that's all I had, Lori.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
Good morning, Mrs. Scheit.
Morning.
Good
Lori,
morning, Dr. Braun. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Laura, you have a banking resolution that we need to
Sure.
look at?
Included in your package is Resolution 12-2021, which discusses the change about Flushing Bank not being able to monitor the second signatures on our checks. So it's a control purpose. It's a control procedure for us. The bank won't monitor it. They one signature and done. It's kind of Flushing said, we're not the first one that's asked them to do it, but they can. It also just discussed about the difference in the approvals during the COVID time.
Lori, how much do we have at Flushing?
Right now, about 610 with the LDC.
Fred, do you think it makes sense to move to a bank that would verify the second signature?
I think for the moment, we've got so much on our plate. I mean, the officer that handled our account, was responsible for our account at Empire, is now with another bank. He'd very much like to talk to us, and we probably will talk to him, when things calm down a little bit.
I asked him to reach back out in April.
I've often wondered, even when all the years that I was at the bank, when we had 2 signatures required above a certain level, whether the operations people really were able to pick that up, or they just spotted it from time to time and then kicked it out as an irregularity. We'll have that ongoing discussion, yes, but for the moment, I don't think we should be making a change.
I can tell everyone that I signed a check kind of on my lap recently. My signature was not as crisp as it might usually be, and they caught it and they called me and said we wanted to make sure that they sent an email to make sure that it was in fact a check that I wanted signed. So and it was below the threshold, it was only supposed to have 1 signature on it, but they did notice that my signature was a little bit off.
What is our threshold?
5,000.
Yeah, 5,000.
5,000?
Felix, to your point, I mean, they're going to have to keep a record of the emails supporting that second signature. And from time to time, the audit committee can certainly take a look at that list and do some internal investigation if it wants.
Okay. I'm okay with what you just explained.
I need a motion to accept that resolution then.
So moved.
So move.
Second, Anne Marie, on the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mrs. Scheit,
Yes.
Mr. Trotter,
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries. Lisa, to you?
Sure. So if you recall at our last meeting, in the IDA, we didn't have an LDC meeting when we had the last IDA meeting. So we set up a procurement officer for the IDA. So we need to do that with the LDC also. My suggestion is that I am the procurement officer for the LDC. So I guess I need a motion or discussion.
Any questions? Motion to appoint Lisa as the
Motion.
procurement officer.
Second.
On the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mrs. Scheit,
Yes.
Mr. Trotter,
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries.
Okay, and the same thing for the LDC, we need an ethics officer, and I suggest that we make Lori the ethics officer for the LDC.
Motion to that effect, please.
So moved. Marty Callahan.
Second.
On the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Scheit,
Yes.
Trotter,
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, that motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is the board assessments. So along with Paris, this time of year, we're required to send not each of your board assessments, but the overview of the results to the ABO. So I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to review the results prior to us sending them to the ABO. They were included in your packet, but if you'd like, I can share my screen so you see the synthesis of them.
And I have reviewed all of them. I've tabulated those numbers. I prefer to wait till Gary is with us at the next meeting to discuss some of the specifics, many of which are repeat comments, mostly about community from prior years. But I'd like a motion to accept this report so it can be filed, and then we'll discuss it more at the next meeting.
So moved. Felix Grucci.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Grucci?
Yes.
Mrs. Scheit?
Yes.
Mr. Trotter?
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, that motion carries.
Okay, thank you. I'll send those over to the ABO and I will put it on for our April meeting to go over. The next item on the agenda is, these are just some reminders. Don't forget that your ethics forms are due. I'm not sure if everyone has sent them in yet, but we can send, Joss, maybe we send a reminder to anyone who hasn't sent them in yet. Anyone having issues setting up that email address, please let me know. If I can't help you, I can definitely get you in touch with Jason at the town who can help you.
Yeah, I'll probably be reaching out to you within the next day or so, just because I was having some difficulty trying to figure it out.
Okay.
As will I, Felix. You're not the only one.
Felix, that guy Jason is really good.
Is he good?
Yep.
He has to really dumb down his responses if I'm going to work with him.
Felix, he's used to working with me. No.
He was good. He was good.
I'm
I
like,
had
"Thank
a
you,
lot
help
of
me with the
trouble
thingy."
with that. And then all of a sudden it worked, and I wish I knew why it worked so that I could tell you, but I have no idea.
That's always my experience. Surprising.
Just for clarification, Lori, what do we use that email address for?
Lori, you're on mute.
Apologies. That was the email address that the New York State OSC, when they were starting the LDC audit, wanted to everyone's private emails to send them some questionnaires. And we said that we're not going to do that. So we set up business emails for you.
Do we get any private questionnaires?
For you to tell us, I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if they've been sent, but they were very much asking me that every day.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't checked mine in the last couple of days, so.
Nothing on my end.
I guess they just wanted to see if I would do it.
That could be. That could be.
Tricia?
Okay, so that, Felix, let us know if we can help you with the emails. The
I
only-
will.
Thank you. The only other item on the agenda is job creation, and Joss sent the job creation information out this morning. I'm gonna just share my screen because I think it's easiest just to put it up for everybody rather than have you running through your emails to try and find it. Hold on. So, this is a little bit redundant because we just went through basically all of this information in Paris, but just want to make sure that we specifically look at the job numbers for our projects. So these are the 6 LDC projects that we have. Just be aware that IGHL, Independent Group Home Living, terminated with us in 2020, but since they were in our books in 2020, we still have to report them in Paris. So we still get this information together so that, we have it. And this one isn't as clean as the last one, but, or the IDA's documents, but basically what you're looking at is the 2020, how many jobs they created. We're missing a little bit of information in some spots, but we're still working on gathering that up. Paris doesn't require that we put jobs into it, but we still want to make sure that we're doing the full monitoring that we should be doing. So most of the LDC projects are less focused on job creation. Job retention is a little more important for the LDC, but we just wanted to make sure that you had this information and that you had a chance to review it, since it isn't presented in Paris like it is for the IDA projects. So I know that I'm sort of moving around. I don't think I'm going to be able to get this to all go on my screen at once.
Yeah, that's
But
okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, question that I have would be, due to the pandemic, is there some kind of, well, let me restate that. In the past, when there wasn't a pandemic, if they didn't meet their numbers that they suggested that they were going to meet, there was discussion about clawback. In light of the pandemic, when people aren't meeting their anticipated job creation numbers, is there some kind of extension or modification that we're doing on our end, so that we're not in the process of clawing back our grants as a result of the pandemic?
Felix, I would say this, that, we're still receiving some of the year-end information. It pertains more to the IDAs, but receiving additional information, and we will take a look at that. We've kind of used an 85% of projected jobs as a kind of a bar. We will look at that again, bring it back to the board. I'm sure there will be some where they're below with letters of explanation, and I think we have to take into account COVID and its effects on some of these businesses before we get aggressive and seek to claw back some of those benefits.
I agree. That was why I asked the question. I don't think we should penalize people if they legitimately got hurt by the pandemic.
Agreed.
And unless Bill disagrees, I don't think that we would claw back our LDC projects for not making their job creation, because in our closing documents, there aren't requirements for that.
Well, just for a point of clarification, the LDC bond documents do not have clawbacks in them. They're not required, do not have them. And we're really doing those only for not-for-profits. It's a little bit different. The IDA documents are required to have clawbacks, and they do have clawbacks in there. But again, there is, in our IDA standard recapture provisions, we have a provision for if there's economic reasons beyond the control of the company, we include pandemics in there, then it can be excused for job creation or job, making sure they have the right number of jobs. Because I mean, you look what happened last year and continuing this year, completely beyond anybody's control. Nobody in their right mind, at the beginning of 2020 thought there'd be a pandemic that would shut the economy down and with government orders for people to stay home. So I think for most of our industries, unless they just totally leave Long Island and consolidate elsewhere, they would probably be one of the carve outs for not having recapture.
Bill, is that a discretionary decision that the board can make, or are we bound by the letter of the agreement?
The contract has the provisions in it, but again, there will be some discretion by the board as to how we interpret those provisions. And I think as Brett said, we need more information. It's starting to come in, but what the impact has been overall, generally and specifically for each project. I've got one in Islip where they had 2 facilities. They were booming before, and then they lost about 70% of their business. They're in the aerospace industry, make products for airlines, and so they're consolidating from 2 facilities to 1, and then they're asking the IDA board permission to sell the other facility, and somebody's going to come in and take that over. So the Islip IDA is very much concerned about making sure they're keeping as many jobs as they could in 1 facility as opposed to 2, and then actually bringing in somebody in the other building. End of the day, they probably will have more jobs in Islip because the board is being proactive. That the first company is actually going to decided because Islip was so helpful, they're shutting down their California operations and moving all those jobs from California to Long Island. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So, but again, though, I mean, they came in quite worried and sat down with the IDA and said, explain the whole situation. And the IDA position, how can we help you, as opposed to, oh, we have to ding you for recapture. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's what
And I
I'm
think
hoping
that's
we'll
what
be able to do.
Yeah, and you guys clearly have that discretion, and I think, if any time there was a need to exercise discretion, it's certainly during this unprecedented pandemic. It's certainly nothing any of us have seen in our lifetimes.
Thanks, Bill.
Questions on job creation? Lisa, anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Anybody, any of the board members or attorneys have anything else for the LDC?
They don't need to accept or adopt or do anything formal with those job creation numbers, do they? It's just FYI?
Yeah, it's just FYI.
Okay.
I'll take a motion to adjourn the LDC meeting.
Motion?
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mrs. Scheit,
Yes.
Mr. Trotter.
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes. Our meeting is concluded. All right, well, next we'll move on to the Industrial Development Agency. It is Wednesday, March 24th. It is 10:37. Roll call, Mr. Grucci,
Here.
Mr. Callahan,
Here.
Mr. Scheit,
Here.
Mr. Trotter, Mr. Braun is here. We do have a quorum. First order of business is to look at
I think we're going to take some things out of order.
we can do that.
Okay.
Yes.
I have 2 resolutions that I would like to take out of order. The first one is for 925 Waverly Avenue Associates LLC, Visiontron Corporation.
Somebody care to make that?
Wait, I think you have to, are you good on this one?
No, I'm not going to either one. I will close the door and leave the room.
Fred is leaving the meeting right
Fred
now.
will stay.
He has a conflict on these 2.
Do we have a quorum if he's not here?
Yes, we do, because Frank generously joined when he really wasn't able to.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah. So we still have a quorum. So just to remind everyone, or to let everyone know, the cost benefit analysis and the pilot are in your packets as well as the resolution. We had a public hearing on Monday morning. There was no comment. Does anyone have?
Lisa, what project is this, Lisa?
Waverly Avenue?
Yes, so just to remind everyone, this is for an existing building at 925 Waverly Avenue. The company makes crowd control products for airports, but for other uses also, hotels, convention centers. I suspect that we might have something of theirs here at Town Hall. This is a $13.8 million project. They are purchasing 925 Waverly Avenue, which I said is an existing building. Topaz Lighting Corporation is currently using some of the space, and they are going to remain in the building for a year or less. Visiontron is currently located in Hauppauge, but they are vacating their Hauppauge location and relocating to the 925 Waverly Avenue facility. They have 74 employees and they're going to add 6 more. Howard, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's adequate. Thank you.
Okay, Joss, is there anybody from the project here? I don't think they have anything that really needs to be added at this point, but if anyone had questions for them.
No, I'm not aware who William Miller is here for, but everyone else I can see is here for a different
Bill-
project.
Bill's here for the.
Bill's for the other project,
Yeah.
for the Savignon project.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
So we're just accepting the application?
Nope,
No.
this is a final authorizing
Oh,
resolution.
the final. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep. That's okay. We did the public hearing on Monday. There was no comment.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept,
Thank
not to accept, to grant the application,
you. To pass the resolution.
to pass the resolution, correct?
Do we have a second?
Second, Marty Callahan.
Okay, on the vote, Felix,
Yes,
Frank,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes,
Okay, all in favor, passes, thank you. The next item on the agenda, again, Fred has a conflict, so I'm not gonna call Fred back in for this one yet. The next item on the agenda is for the Acropolis Framing Inc. project. They're doing business as Parthenon. This is, just to remind everyone, they plan to invest $1.7 million in an existing building at 15 Commercial Boulevard in Medford. They manufacture picture frames primarily for art consultants and designers. They're proposing to purchase this building. It's about 10,000 square feet. They have 15 employees. They're going to create 2.5 FTE new employees, and their plan is to expand their services. They're vacating space in Bohemia. Howard, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, and then I'm pretty sure that we have representatives from the company if anyone had any questions for them.
The number of jobs was 2?
They have 15 employees that they're going to be retaining, and they're going to add 2.5 FTE.
Okay.
and is this also a final resolution?
Yes, final authorizing resolution.
And they're coming from a different town to our town, correct?
Yes, both. Yeah,
I slope.
yes. Does someone?
I don't have any questions.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Frank. Do I have a second?
Marty Callahan, second.
Okay, on the vote, Anne Marie,
yes,
Marty,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Felix?
Yes,
Okay, it passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank, thank you so
Get
much
Fred out-
for
Did you get Fred out of jail?
meeting. I'm gonna let Fred back in.
That was pretty strong.
Well, this, in case of an emergency, this is the one we lock in.
Strong stuff.
Okay, so thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay, Lisa, we're good?
We're good, Frank. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care, guys.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Frank.
Thank
Take
you.
it.
Frank.
See you next month.
Happy birthday, continuing birthday, Frank.
Thanks a lot.
All right, back to the agenda. Minutes of March 10th meeting have been sent to everyone. Motion to accept those.
So
So
moved,
moved.
Felix Grucci.
Second, Anne
From
Marie.
Anne Marie. Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes,
Mrs. Scheit,
Yes,
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries. And our audit committee minutes of the same date, March 10th, 2021. Motion,
so moved, Felix Grucci.
second.
Martin Callahan.
Thank you, Marty. Questions? On the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes,
Mrs. Scheit,
yes,
Braun votes yes, motion carries. Lori, I'll turn it back to you.
Included in your packages is the profit and loss statement for the month of January. I'm going to do that first.
I'm sharing my screen.
Okay. So for the month of January, we actually had some activity. We had a termination fee, some other document fees. We did have an application fee, and we did have 2 closings during the month of January, 14 Glover and BioCogen. We also have in the month of January is the bulk of the pilot annual administrative fee. That's at 51,000. That comes in usually all in January. As far as the other items on the schedule of the profit and loss, most of the items line up as where we expect them to be. I did want to point out, because to me, as an accountant, it always looks weird when if you scroll down to account 2450 conferences and travel, it's actually negative, a credit. We actually got back money that we had put last year for a deposit for an event, and they sent us some money back. So that's why.
Sorry.
Okay. I thought I touched my screen. Sorry.
I'm trying.
Oh, here we go. That's okay. That's okay. So, does anybody have any questions on the income statement versus budget for the month of January?
The investment earnings is the monies that we have deposited in various banks.
Yes, yes. And there's, Felix, to be clear, there's one bank. We
One
keep it
bank,
all in, I'm sorry, Flushing. They did move our rates up slightly, but they're still at 1.5. You know, the market's still recovering from the COVID down. So obviously, when we did this budget, we were looking at possibly higher rates. So we're behind budget on the investment earnings.
And Felix, we continue to be protected for amounts over the $250,000 FDIC limit.
Okay, good. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you need a motion, I'll make a motion to accept.
Thank you. Second,
second, Anne Marie.
Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes,
Mrs. Scheit,
Yes,
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries. Lori, back to you on Paris.
Okay. The next
Oh, you
item
are
that
Paris, excuse
I'm
me.
sorry, I'm going to do the financials, the audit, and then Paris last. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So the next item included in your package is a draft of the independent auditor's report. PKF, who merged with our former auditors, ABZ, PKF did the audit. It was the same people that were from ABZ transitioned over to PKF and did the audit. So I'll go through the highlights, but feel free if you have any specific questions you want to ask me. Starting on pages 1 and 2 is the standard independent auditor's report. It's a clean opinion, meaning it's unqualified, no issues were found. The next few pages just talk about the changes in our numbers from year to year. And then on pages 8 and 9 are where our financials are.
Sorry if I'm making you dizzy.
That's okay. I'm glad you're,
Lisa, if you use that slide bar on the right-hand side, that little gray box, it'll make the transition from page to page a little smoother.
Yeah, but that involves me being more adept at it.
Just close your eyes.
Sorry.
So one thing in reviewing these statements, so this is the balance sheet, this page. I do want to point out that there was only one audit adjustment, and it was for $22, and I still disagree with it, but I did book it because it was just grossing up the Ronkonkoma Hub money. There was a little interest earned on it. So be that as it may, I agreed with that, and the numbers tie in. I mean, they did say they had no problems and they had full cooperation with working with us. Okay. On the balance sheet, I just want to point out some items that you really should be aware of. On the deferred out, there's a couple of pension numbers that really have changed significantly. And these pension numbers come from the pension system that's run by New York State Employee Retirement System. These numbers I've seen hit everybody pretty hard. These are not fundable items, and I'll explain that further, but I want to point out the big fluctuations. So for example, up in the asset section, just where Lisa was circling around, the deferred outflow of pension resources, that number went up from 85,000 to 296,000. There's about 16 pages of footnotes explaining that, but I'll give you my overall in a second. There's also a number further down under non-current liabilities. They'll see pension liability 381,000. Last year it was 80. Also, that is not a fundable liability. That's a required disclosure by the accounting rules, but there is no funding. It's just showing your potential share of this liability. And lastly, down below is the deferred inflow of resources, and that number actually went down. So I always do like a little cheat sheet for myself, and I take those three numbers and I say, those three numbers, which represent, there's actually an audit report that's done on the New York State Employee Retirement System by KPMG, and each participant in that system gets their share of assets and liabilities. And I do an analysis and I look based on all those three columns where they all get hung up. How does that hit the income statement? Like, even though it's not fundable, how does that affect my operations? And when you add all three of those numbers, the net impact, which you'll see on the next page, is a $69,000 expense to the financial statement. So it all rolls, it's up included in admin salaries and benefits. That number 707 includes this, what I was saying, 70,000 of extra pension monies that's required to be set aside, but not fundable. I've said a lot, and there's pages of footnotes, so please feel free to ask me questions as we go. Now that we're on to the income statement, I just want to point out some things. As we had mentioned, because we have done the, I presented already the year-end results to you. And again, if you take the year-end results I presented to you versus these numbers, you'll see there's two adjustments. There's the $22 difference, and then there's also this pension adjustment, which we don't know, and we don't get that information in until March. So that's the difference between our numbers and the numbers that are presented to you. The number I presented to you had a net loss or net change in position for the year for 48,000. Any questions on this? Obviously, we had less projects this year. Obviously, some of our expenses were down because travel was down, conferences were down. Any questions on the income statement?
So Lori, how soon are you guys going to be retiring to take advantage of those enormous pension benefits?
I tell I think you
Not
needed to
soon, I
retire
hope.
yesterday.
Lori, I think we need a motion to accept the recommendation from the audit committee, correct?
Yes.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second, Marty Callahan.
Mr. Callahan on the vote.
Yes.
Mr. Grucci? Mr. Grucci, you may be muted.
Yes, I was. Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Scheit.
Yes.
Broad votes yes, that motion carries. One comment, we have been tracking our results for the past, well, we can go back further than that, but for the last 31 years. Lori gave me a summary of that this morning. We'll be happy to distribute that to the board members. It starts at 1990 and goes all the way through to 2020. And the highlights are the revenues, our profit or loss, and our net restricted assets at year end. So we'll get that out to everybody. And if anybody has any questions, we can bring that up at the next meeting. Lori on Paris?
Okay. The next item in your package is 108 pages of one of the Paris sections. I have to tell you, and I have to say thank you to everyone. I mean, it's team effort. It really is. It takes a village because this is quite the undertaking every year. And with the team we have, it balances to the dollar. So it's not all me, I have to say. I got a good team here.
And
So
it
thank
could be an easier process if Paris made any sense.
Well, yeah. I think most of our conversations on Paris are why would they want us to show that?
Is that on
Like-
the record?
Yeah, that's on
No.
the record, and I will tell the ABO that.
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I do. I often do send them letters. I'm like, so you want me to say, okay. So I say it. You want me to say yes, no, yes. Okay. So the first couple of pages of Paris, pages 1 through 17, are the governance sections and talks about the staff at the agency. The next pages, the next 80 pages are the individual projects. And this is, like I said, where we spend huge amount of time. Terry knows, everyone knows the amount of time that we spend going through this back and forth. The page that now it's, Lisa, you're going to slide that quick. 105. This is the page where I always am like, I hone in on this. And Felix, this is something that me and you have spoken about. I wonder if we could drag it. So this talks about 87 projects. Total exemptions are, of those 87 projects, 34 million would have been full taxation. We received 18 million. So we net exempted 16 million. And our employment change for this period is 3,669. Those numbers, and I tracked these because Felix, again, you have asked for that in the past. I didn't include this in the package, but those numbers are very comparable to what we've done in the past. But I think it shows the amount of what we're bringing in. And when we often talk about the total exemptions at full taxation, often if these projects wouldn't be done, there would be no total exemptions at full taxation because the project wouldn't be there. So these are projects in the future that will, as I get closer near the end, that gap will close up and there'll be less exemptions and more pilots paid till it gets back on the tax roll for the full tax amount. that 34 million.
And Lori, this is 1 year. This is 2020, correct?
This 1 year, right. I do have, because again, I think you asked me for this, Fred, Felix, I do have a historical starting 2015 that I'll give Lisa so you could see each year.
So when the claim is made that we've given full exemptions, that's really not accurate.
Not even close.
But I
And
like
the-
that number at the end, the 3,000 number. That's, I assume that meant that that's how many jobs were created during 2020?
Or retained.
It's, again, here's the Odyssey of Paris. It looks at what the jobs were prior to the project and what they are at the end of 2020. So some of the jobs could have been created other years during the project, but still exist. So still exist since inception of the project would be 3,669.
It's still good.
So it's the cumulative job creation for all of our projects.
All of our projects.
Got it.
Exactly.
That's an impressive number.
It is. I
Yeah.
really, I think when you hone in on where it's going towards bringing in, again, that total exemption, that pre-pilot number wouldn't have possibly been there if these projects weren't there. So
Yep.
And the jobs wouldn't be there.
Mhm.
Right.
more importantly,
And
The
that means that
controller,
there would have been about 3,600 people without a job in the town of Brookhaven right now if we didn't approve those projects.
and the controller does an annual report, and one thing that I always notice is the exemption per job. So if you do the math on that, we don't give a huge exemption. There's not a huge outlay to bring an individual job in on average. So we always, that always catches my eye, that it's a, I think, a fair balance.
Mhm.
so, you know, that is really when we get all caught up in Paris and the idiosyncrasies of the reporting, I'm very honed in on making sure we're focused on the important numbers within Paris. And that to me is this page, which accumulates everything. So I just want to point that out.
Lori, another question for you.
Sure.
The first two columns, the exemptions and the pilots, are they about the same ratio every year, or do they vary widely from year to year?
Do have that on my schedule because I think you've asked me that. So they vary somewhere between 55 and 60%.
Got it. Okay.
Since I've been tracking it since 2015. So again, I'll give that out because I know you were interested in that. And the net exemption you also were interested in, you had asked me in the past, that is between 40 to 47%. That as a percentage of the total.
Mm-hmm. Those are nice numbers to have at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of numbers to have at your fingertips, sorry, Lori, it was just
No, go.
too easy of a segue. I don't know if you guys can see this, but Amy put together these cards. Again, we're going to mail them to everybody. Usually we hand them out, but we're going to mail them.
Mhm.
It's just an overview of the last 3 years, 2018, 19, and 2020, of the number of projects we've done, the new investment in the town, and the jobs created or retained. So,
Mhm.
bless you. We'll send those out. This is another nice set of numbers, and she laminated them to have at your fingertips. Sorry.
Perfect. Thanks.
It was too easy.
It was good. The one thing, as mentioned, that this whole pilot process, just looking at it in the year 1920, and again, given the COVID and all the obstacles we had to overcome, we collected that 18 million represented 105 individual checks that we received, because the projects have the option of paying 2 or 1, one half or 2 half of their taxes. We dispersed 179 checks so that pilots paid. We dispersed 179 individual checks to each taxing jurisdictions. And by the way, if there's one check that's for several projects to the town, for example, we'll list it out. So that only counts as one. So within that, it's a processing of it. It works out exactly 600 individual bills. So this process is a large cycle.
Significant effort.
Fortunately, Felix, those are single signature authority for the pilot
Yes.
accounts, so we don't have to back it up with emails.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
That's true. That's true. And we're very on target to make sure everything's dispersed. And now I'll use that as a segue. Regarding pilots that have come in 2021, we've received all except one outstanding pilot, and we've received all of our annual administration fees except for 2 projects. Lisa, do you want to talk about the one that hasn't paid us yet, our collection efforts?
Sure. So I think you'll recall at our last meeting, I mentioned that Region Tech had not yet paid their pilot. They haven't paid their administrative fee either. We reached out to them a number of times, certified mail, phone calls, emails, and weren't really getting a satisfactory response. So we sent a termination letter, a default letter the other day, told them that if they don't make payment in full by April 1st, we will be terminating their project. I got an email response from her that they're struggling with COVID. So that's sort of where we stand right now. Just to put it in context, pilots were due to us January 31st. She did send us a check. Joss, did we get it on before the 31st or was it after the 31st?
It was postmarked February 1st, which we said was okay because it was a Sunday on the 31st, but then it bounced.
And then the check bounced. And when we went back to her, we didn't hear anything from her. We sent, so after each month, the interest and penalties accrue, or interest or penalties, depending on the month. So we sent her a new invoice with the updated amount, didn't hear back from her. It was, we were concerned. We didn't really know what was going on. And after not hearing back from her, she did say she would wire us the money. We never got anything. We just went ahead and sent the default letter, and that's where we stand right now. This isn't the first year that we've had issues getting the pilot payment. So I defer to the board a little bit. We certainly have wiggle room on that April 1st. I don't have to sign the documents that day, but I would like a little direction on how you want us to handle it. Howard, did you have anything that you wanted to add? You're muted, Howard. Okay.
Yeah, I realize that's what she's unmuting. I do not anticipate that they will be cooperative in reconveying the property, so that we will have to record all the documents without their assistance, and frankly, at our costs, which will probably be, something less than $1,000, but it will cost us some money. But I don't think we have a choice. The monies that they have not paid, my understanding is they will be assessed by the assessor's office against the property, so that the town and the other taxing jurisdictions don't lose their funds that they should have received.
And I'll work with the assessor's office to ensure that we have everything organized so that the taxing jurisdictions are the money is recouped. I guess my question really is, do you want me to sign the documents on April 1st, or would you like me to give them some more leeway?
What project was this again, Lise?
Sorry, this is Region Tech, and to remind everyone, they bought an existing building in Mastic, and they do the lines on roadways. So
I thought that was, yeah, okay, yep.
Do you think there's a possibility of getting the money?
I'm sorry, Felix, I didn't hear you.
I said, do you think that there is a possibility in ultimately getting the money? If there is, you could give them a little more breathing room if you really think that this is a futile effort, then then whatever the next step would be in this process, I think we ought to.
Felix, I don't know, but I do feel, I feel like we should at least consider giving them a little bit more time. Terminating them means that they will lose their benefit. I mean, it's a serious, and then you'll have the option to recapture what hasn't been, not only get the payment that they owed for the pilot, but you could choose to get what they would have paid had they not been in our name. So it's a significant step. It's something that you should consider.
And the probability of that happening, I think, would be pretty low. If they can't make the pilot payment, how are they going to make future pilot payments, recoup the pilot payments that they owe?
Felix, there would be no future pilot payments. It would go back on the tax rolls, and then they would owe the taxes. And if they failed to make their tax payment, just like the rest of us, go to the county, and eventually it'll get auctioned.
I thought you said that they would be obligated for future pilot payments. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
What would happen, and sorry if I'm confusing the issue, is we could say to them, your pilot payment was, and I apologize, I don't have the number in front of me, $14,000. I have no idea if that's even close, but $14,000, but your full taxation was $30,000. So we could say, in addition to the $14,000 that you owe on the pilot, we're going to have you pay back what you would have paid had you not been in our name. And then going forward, once you terminate them, they'll owe that full amount to the taxing jurisdiction because they'll be out of our name and they'll no longer get our benefits.
You know, that's the recapture issue. That if somebody terminates early, we seek to recapture benefits that we provided to them in the past. And I think that's what Lisa's alluding to.
Yes.
Okay,
Felix, I would suggest we give them additional 30 days. They're a seasonal business. You know, they're not doing a lot of road striping during the winter.
Mhm.
If there's any possibility of state infrastructure money coming, maybe it'll help them. However, you know, in the past, they've given us some problems, but, you know, a 30-day extension probably isn't the worst in the world. And if at the end of that period they can't come clean, then we have to do what we have to do.
Can we put a lien on their receivables?
We would have to sue them to recover this money and then look to recover from their assets, whether it's receivables or other things. I mean, you could, although I suspect an institutional lender already has a prior lien on all of their assets. So you could go to them now and say, if you want us to work with you, you need to grant us a lien on your receivables and your equipment. But I seriously doubt that it's not already liened by a bank who gave them kind of credit or other, or they gave them the loan for the real estate.
They would have first position, obviously.
Yeah. So, and the second position is not going to do you much good.
Felix, I don't think in my history here, I don't remember ever having done that, where we've taken a lien other than on the property or equipment.
If I may, if you're inclined to say, you know, let's see what happens over the next 30 days, I'll reach out to the attorneys who handled the matter. I don't know that they represent him on an ongoing basis, but, and maybe they'll come up with something that'll explain to us what they propose to do and see where it goes. But at some point you will have to take action, I think. If you delay, you're setting precedent for other people, et cetera.
Right.
It would be good to have had some direct communication either with them or their lawyers to understand what's going on here.
And I did receive an email after we sent the letter. She sent an email and said that they were dealing with COVID. So they were quarantined because of COVID. And that takes us back maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It doesn't explain the months prior.
Right.
I think Fred's suggestion makes a lot of sense. There's not a whole lot of construction being done in the winter, and if that's their primary source of income, they're probably hurting. So I would be inclined to, to move Fred's suggestion.
I second Felix's motion, which makes great sense and was far more eloquent than I could have put it.
I don't know if we need a formal resolution. I think we have a consensus of the 4 board members that are here. I just want to jump back to
Howard,
Lori, unless you've got anything else we
Howard,
need.
did we need anything else on that, or are we good? That's fine?
No, that's fine, you know, and I'll reach out to the 2 attorneys who represent him on this. I don't think they're gonna be helpful. And I wonder whether or not they're gonna be able to recover from their setbacks.
Yep.
The interest and penalties are significant, so on taxes, but we'll try.
Howard, on that issue, if we issue benefits to any company and they get into a situation where they're totally incapable of making the pilot payments, and the pilot payments have accrued over the years to a significant number, or any number for that matter, they're no longer in a position to make payment. They lost everything. Who makes that pilot payment? Who makes those municipalities whole? Is it the IDA?
No, what will normally happen is you would deed the property back to the company. It will then go back on the tax rolls, and the assessor will retroactively assess the unpaid monies.
Correct, but if the company that owns the property was put back on the tax roll, they still owned it, they're gonna lose it to tax, what do you call it?
Yes, no, they will lose it. The property will be put up for foreclosure essentially by the taxing authorities, and they will try to realize their money that way, and they'll resell it. So it'll be the normal situation you have with everyone else.
But for purposes of this discussion, when Suffolk County takes the property for lack of tax and they auction it, don't they only auction it off for what the value of the taxes are? Not the pilot payment.
Well, when you say that Suffolk County is only concerned about recovering monies that were unpaid. Theoretically, someone could offer more money. There could be a bidding war if the property was valuable, and people could come to buy that property from Suffolk County, and they theoretically could bid more than the amount of the taxes that are due. And the excess would go back to probably the bank first. You know, it would go to others.
What I'm trying to understand though is, I would assume that after this whole process is done, whatever the process may entail, there's going to be some monies that are owed to those taxing districts that were entitled to a pilot payment, because there's not going to be significant amount of monies coming from the tax sales. Who's obligated to make those municipalities whole?
To the extent Suffolk County recovers the money, Suffolk County will make them whole.
To the extent that they recover, so the entities that were originally relying upon the pilot payments are the ones who are going to be losing some or all of their revenue.
Yes, but that is the same in reality as what happens on ordinary tax situations on your house or a commercial piece of property that's not involved with us. If you don't pay your real estate taxes, Suffolk County eventually will sell it at auction, and they will take that money and they will pay the expenses and then pay the taxing authorities, etc.
No. Howard, they actually,
Okay.
we get paid as soon as the taxes aren't paid in June. The county takes the liens and all the tax authorities get all the money.
Okay.
So
I'm
we
sorry.
don't, the loss is, but what happens is later on, it'll go on that tax line on the real estate bill, so it gets spread out through the county. But the county then takes the property and sells it. And that the county recoups that money.
Thank you, Annette.
All right, just to sum up, we have a consensus that will give them an additional 30 days. Howard's going to speak to their attorneys, and we'll take it up 30 days from now if they have not paid. But we still need to approve Lori's audit and Paris submissions. I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Marty Callahan.
Second, Anne Marie.
Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mrs. Shea,
Yes.
Braun votes yes, that motion carries. Thank you, Lori.
The next item on the agenda is the East Setauket Energy Storage LLC project. It's Savion LLC also. This is a proposed project at 366 Sheep Pasture Road in Port Jefferson Station. It's currently a mulch and nursery operation. The project is proposing a 125 megawatt BESS system, and that stands for Battery Energy Storage System. This is, we've been doing a lot of solar installations, a lot of fuel cell projects. This is now a battery storage project, which I suspect is the newest of the renewables, and I don't know what's coming next, but we'll find out soon. Maybe wind. We have some wind projects. But so basically what these do is they take the power, it's like a battery. They take the power, it is a battery. They hold the power until the grid needs it, and then they pull from the battery, and then they can replenish when there's a decrease in the need, and then they sit sort of idle and wait until the grid needs them again. You can think of it sort of like a peaker plant, except for they're not making power, they're just holding the power. So this project is a $154 million project, and they are requesting sales tax, mortgage recording tax exemption, and a pilot. There's no jobs associated with this, just like the rest of the renewable projects that we've been doing. Obviously, there's construction, and there are some contractors that'll be involved as far as servicing, making sure that everything is as it should be. Howard is representing the project, and I think we have some guests. If anybody has questions for either Howard and or representatives who are in our waiting room, they can hear us, but they can't see us until we.
If I may, Lisa, we have my clients, Walter Meisner, I believe, on the Zoom call, and Rob Panacea is on the call, and Bill Miller is on the call.
So just to continue, this is the application was in your packets. Basically what we're doing is the request is to accept the application at this point. There's some work that and also schedule allow me to schedule the public hearing. But we're working through some pilot information. These are a little bit different than anything we've seen before. So it's kind of an exciting project. We do have an application for an additional battery project that you've seen already, but that one's on municipal property, so it's a little bit different as far as our relationship with it. But did anyone have questions for either Howard or the project?
Howard, I have a question.
I can answer.
Yes, you can. Was that property sold in the last couple of years?
This property, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, sir. Walter, I don't know if Walter's on the line or Rob, if they can hear us and they can speak. They would know better than I would.
Josh, do you want to bring them? Josh is going to have them join as panelists.
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good
Good morning, everyone. I'm Walter Meisner with Savion. I'm not sure when the property changed hands most recently, but we entered into a lease agreement with the current landowner about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
So you're leasing. Okay.
We have a long-term lease option for
Lease.
20 some years.
Will any part of the existing operation remain there, or they'll be out completely?
Right now it's seasonal, and it's actually not always in compliance with their code for land use, but the property as currently planned is a portion of the front portion of the project might still be able to be operated as it currently is for the nursery.
And the construction is a long-term one. This doesn't happen overnight, correct?
That's correct.
Fred, if I may, my understanding is, and I haven't been involved in this aspect of it, they've been meeting with the planning department and planning board, and they're proceeding along with them. And then the planning department is familiar with the project. And this is, if I may, this is one of a number of projects they have planned of this nature in the town. It's the first of them.
Are you at liberty to discuss any of the other ones, or is it premature?
I
think it's
high
premature.
level. If Howard will let me.
It's up to you, Walter. It's up to you, boss, whatever you say.
I can say we're currently, we've already met with the planning department once, or a number of times, I should say. And we're strategically developing about another 5 projects. LIPA's current RFP for battery energy storage is expected to come out here in the next month. And that will kind of determine our strategic plan going forward. But we would expect up to another 5 projects that we'd want to introduce to you in the near future.
Do they have to do a significant amount of wiring? I'll be kind of, prehistoric in that term, in order for you to connect into the grid?
It does require a new interconnection to the LIPA grid system. There's a number of ways to do that, but yes, we do construct either an interconnect, a line tap, or we go into an existing substation.
Thank you. Questions from the board members?
So this is the property that's kind of adjacent to the Greek Orthodox Church on Sheepmaster Road.
Across the street or adjacent?
Adjacent.
Adjacent, yeah.
Okay.
And for those that go by it, just a side comment, there's a huge clearing directly across from the Greek church, which I think is probably the second stage of Setauket Meadows, which we are not involved in.
I got a question. When you completed your construction project, what is it going to look like?
The system generally looks at what we propose. They're like containers that house the batteries, and in between each one is essentially an inverter and potentially a transformer, some controls. It's very passive, and typically through the planning departments, we generally end up screening them at any visual points. So you typically will see a fence and some trees. Height is very usually low to the ground based on the container sizing.
So this will be a series. How many containers would you require, and how much room does that take up?
This project is proposed at 125 megawatts. Generally speaking, it's 2 to 3 containers per megawatt. So I would suspect we're probably on the verge of 300 containers or so. I'd have to go back and look at the technology we proposed here, but that's the kind of rule of thumb. And I'm sorry, you had a second question.
How much room would that take up?
How much room? So we would in this regard anticipate using most of this property just so that we allow for space and screening. I think the property is about 15, 16 acres. We'll probably end up using maybe anywhere up to that point. Could be a little bit less, could be maybe 10 acres if we can consolidate and keep things close. But the substations, as per the earlier question, for LIPA also take up some space.
And the containers, are they like the cargo shipping containers, or are these a special made container?
They're especially made for this use, but they generally look that way. There are other providers as well. Some of the name brands that you would hear, Tesla, Fluence, a number of other product developers have slightly different cabinets that look a little bit different, but they're generally in that regard.
Security issues, cameras, fencing. How about those issues?
Yeah, generally, I shouldn't say generally, all of our facilities will be fenced and secured to meet typical utility standards.
Thank you.
And just why is the agency's support needed?
For the benefits, the sales taxes is substantial, the savings in order to do this, to make it work. The mortgage recording taxes, we anticipate a mortgage, and of course the pilot benefits. all of those are necessary to make this competitive.
And Anne Marie, the other reason too is with all of the other alternative energy projects that the IDA has been doing, that Lisa mentioned, the solar and wind coming on and fuel cell projects, you need not all of that energy is produced when it's always needed. So you need these energy storage facilities so that when the grid needs the power's there. If it's, if it's not sunny or not windy, those other projects can't produce electricity. So
Sure, Bill. Sure,
necessary
I
component
understand
for-
the technical need for it. Thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying the relationship to all of the other renewable energy projects we've been doing. Thank you.
Howard, to your comment about mortgage recording tax, these containers are technically transportable. So the mortgage recording tax is really basically land only.
I'm not privy to all the details of how they finance the entire projects, but I suspect that the fact that we consider it to essentially be land, and although Bill and I did have discussions, and Lisa did have discussions about how you would look at that, but if the project costs a significant amount of money, that does not mean a bank or a lender would not want to lien on the entire property for the amount of the loan. So if it's a $50 million loan, the fact that the land may only be valued at $2 million, for argument's sake, doesn't mean that they would not take a mortgage on the property for that amount.
But they'd still file UCCs against the equipment, correct?
I'm certain they will. Because if it's considered fixtures or personal property, they'd want to do that, and I'm sure their lawyers will do that.
Any other questions from the board members? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the application.
So move.
Second.
Second, Marty Callahan.
Thank you. On the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mrs. Scheit,
Yes.
Ron votes yes, the motion carries. The application is accepted, and welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you again.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
The next item on the agenda is an amended application for the AOE, the American Organic Energy Project. And just to remind everyone, this is a project that's been a long time in the making. I'm just looking at my whiteboard. I see we did a public hearing in 2016 for this. So it's been
Coming back, huh?
yeah, it's been
Ooh.
in the works, and I don't even know if everybody I don't know if everybody was on the board when we accepted this. I suspect that Gary, well, it's been a long time coming. So just to remind everyone, go ahead, Bill, did you want to give them an
I was
overview?
gonna say, so and the IDA and the LDC have both passed numerous resolutions for this. It was originally going to be financed with tax-exempt bonds. They're now getting a mortgage from the Green Bank, which is a New York State entity. So they're no longer doing bonds. Twice we were able to get them enough volume cap allocation we weren't able to use. But for those who don't remember, this is a project that will take organic waste, everything from food waste, yard waste. They put it into a machine that's called a digester, add water. It produces methane gas that'll be transported across the road to the power plant by the landfill that uses landfill gas. This is methane gas coming out of here. What comes out at the back end is pure water that can be used for any purpose. And then the solid waste that comes out will be transferred to Scott's Miracle Grow, that they bag it, and you can put that compost on in your garden or around your shrubs. So this is keeping a lot of material out of the landfill and actually, putting it to good use. And so it's very, very green project. What part of the loan from the Green Bank? So you have the Vigliotti brothers, excuse me. They were the 100% owners of American Organic Energy. The lender has requested that they put a holding company in between the owners and the company so that if ever to make a bankruptcy remote. If the individual owners were to file for personal bankruptcy, it would not impact the company. That's why they're doing this. So it's really a very simple amendment, just reflecting this change in the ownership structure to put a holding company in there. This has no impact on our lease documents.
And one thing, Bill, I don't think that the gas goes to the landfill. I think they discussed that at one point, but I think they're going to be using it for their own,
Okay.
for there's automobiles that can run on it.
Okay.
We almost pulled the trigger on this one, right? We met the owner. Didn't he come by and see us one time?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been, as Lisa said, we've been working on this project for 6 years now. So it's finally, hopefully ready to close in the next few weeks.
Wow.
There we go.
You need a motion to accept the amended application?
So moved.
Go ahead.
On the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mr. Scheit,
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, the motion is carried.
Thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is a banking resolution, which has everything that we discussed in the LDC resolution, plus a little bit more. Fred, do you want me to go through that, or did you want to discuss it?
Go ahead, and then I'll pick it up.
Okay, so it's in your packets, and like I said, it has the same caveat that Flushing is not able to have a threshold whether they have one signature or two signatures. So we added the same information that will allow us to do one signature, do two signatures, but have a email when an email system when we're unable to get the second signature. And we'll just do that internally. They're not going to double check whether we have one or two signatures. If a check comes in with two, it doesn't really matter to them. But in addition to that, we made we cleaned up the resolution a little bit. We added a few pieces of information that we thought were pertinent. Instead of having just savings accounts, we also included now interest checking accounts for investments, because that's the system, I guess, that Flushing uses. We also included at the bottom of page 2 and the beginning of page 3 that accounts will be secured through collateral agreements to cover money to 105% in excess of the FDIC insured limits or an irrevocable letter of credit. So we just wanted to make sure that our language in this resolution followed what we've actually been doing, making sure that we're in line with our resolutions, in line with the reality of what Flushing can do and what's been working. And then a little bit further down, did you want to add anything?
The only thing I would say is the letter of credit would be issued by one of the several federal home loan banks.
And that language is in this resolution.
And Lisa, it's all accepted by the New York State OSC
Yes.
guidelines that
Yes.
we do this.
Yes.
I have a motion to accept that resolution.
So moved. Marty Callahan.
Second.
Second, Anne Marie.
Thank you. Mr. Callahan on the vote.
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mrs. Scheit,
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a resolution to hire Margolin Basunder LLP. So Margolin Basunder, you'll recognize Mr. Basunder's name. They are the firm working on the Ronk Hub project. Annette, do you have anything you want to add to this? Just, we wanted to make sure that we had everything sort of lined up and clearly delineated, and we wanted to make sure that we had a resolution with the IDA hiring Margolin Basunder LLP.
Annette, you're muted.
Did you want to add anything, Annette?
not at all. I think we killed this one 2 weeks ago.
So now we're just officially taking action.
With their cost to be reimbursed by TriTech, it's not at our expense. And we will still get a document prepared by Zach Doobie of Basunda's firm, basically transferring responsibility from the town to the IDA. We don't have that yet. At the last meeting, they said it'd probably be 30 days before we would get it. But we do need a motion to hire them on our behalf.
So moved, Felix Grucci.
Second,
Second, Anne Marie?
on the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mrs. Scheit,
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, that motion carries. Lisa, want to back up to AOE authorizing resolution?
Fred, just a quick question on the Ronkonkoma Hubbard, if you want. I
Sure.
can defer the question until,
No.
when do we need to take the next action that we discussed at our last board meeting?
Not until they get us that agreement and we pass that resolution. That'll be the next item that we need to, the next action that we would take.
And if I remember correctly, the next step beyond that would be a public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
And I apologize, guys. I printed my version of the agenda a day ago, and we added something on. So Fred's right. We need to do a resolution for the is it the final authorizing resolution for American Organic Energy?
Yes, Bill, final authorizing?
Yes.
I see him shaking his head.
Yes, and the final authorizing resolution is in fact in your, it's an amended authorizing resolution in your packet. So we do need a motion for that resolution.
Somebody care to make that?
So moved. Marty Callahan.
Thank you. Second,
Second, Felix Grucci.
on the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci, Mrs. Scheit,
Yes.
Braun votes yes, that motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is for America Corporation. So if you recall, I think maybe the last meeting, maybe the meeting before that, we did a final authorizing resolution for the Famerica Company Corporation to lease space in 19 Nicholas in Yaphank. And they told us that they needed sales tax exemption. They've subsequently come back and said that they need more sales tax exemption. So they've asked for an additional $150,000 worth of purchases, which works out to roughly, don't quote me on this, but like $10,000 in sales tax that would be exempted. And so that's the request to the board right now.
My only question is, why would they need that if the equipment's going to be used in their production?
They needed to do electric upgrades in the building.
Okay. I'll make that motion then. Is there a second?
Yes, second, Felix Grucci.
On the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mrs. Scheit. I vote, Mr. Braun votes yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Ronk Hub project. Bill, do you want to give the board an overview?
Bill, you're muted.
So they are ready to move forward with phase 2A. This land that they have acquired. They're ready to go. It's very similar in size to phase 1. It's actually a little bit more land, slightly more buildings, but very comparable. So what Lisa and I are looking at, the original pilot for phase 1 and comparing it what we had authorized the pilot for phase 1, and then we authorized the total pilot. So we got to take for phase 2 out of what's already been authorized for the total pilot on everything if and when it's ever built. And so looking at and comparing it, what we decided or suggested that probably the best way to do the pilot for phase 2A is make it the same pilot payments as they were paying on phase 1, because it's so similar in size and everything that trying to like crunch numbers to change it by $1,000 here or there was just didn't make any sense. And that's where we came out. But they are ready to move forward, and they want to close on that in the next few weeks.
But what do they need from us, though?
So it's just a final authorizing resolution for phase 2A and approving the pilot schedule for phase 2A, which will be identical as phase 1. So again, just for the boards, for people, because this goes back also forever. The IDA approved the total project, everything to be built on the land, and the total pilot payments. So we did 100,000, and it has the whole, to start with, and then the total amount going forward, and it ramps up after 10 years, and it ramps up very quickly. And so this is, but then we've been approving each phase as they are ready to close. So we approved the overall transaction, then we approved phase 1, and now we're approving phase 2A. Phase 2B, that's land that we talked about that we'll see how that comes into title.
What's going to take place on 2A? What are they building?
Phase 2A is going to be combination.
That's the piece that's going to have the town square, and it's also going to have retail and retail, commercial, and housing.
And residential. So it has residential, retail, and commercial, and the town square.
I'll make I'll offer the resolution to.
Is there a second?
Second.
Callahan?
On the vote?
Mr. Callahan.
Yes.
Mr. Grucci?
Yes.
Mr. Scheit?
Yes.
Votes yes, motion carries.
Sorry, Anne Marie.
Just a quick question on.
No, you're faster than I am, Marty.
Felix, you had a question?
Yeah, on TriTech. Is TriTech just a construction firm for this project, or are they the owner operators?
They are the owner operator.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were the party that the town selected as part of the urban renewal process. And
Not that it changes anything. I just was unclear if they were just the construction firm or if they were the actual owners of the project.
they're the owners, the operators, and they're in it for the long haul.
Good.
To New York.
Okay, thank you, everybody. The next item on the agenda is C2NY. They asked for a sales tax and completion date extension. They asked if they could have until May 31st of 21 for their completion and their to extend their sales tax. They told us they didn't need additional exemption, just more time. And just to remind everybody, this is the Penny Saver Solar, Penny Saver Solar installation at the town's amphitheater.
Motion?
So move.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Mr.
Sorry.
Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Grucci?
Yes.
Mr. Scheit?
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Again, our board assessments. So as was discussed in the LDC meeting, we're required to send the overview of the assessments to the ABO by the 31st. I wanted to just make sure that everybody was aware of how we sort of fell in those assessments. But I suspect, as we discussed in the last meeting, we're going to push the discussion of those numbers as well as the discussion of the written comments, which don't go to the ABO, to the April meeting. But I just wanted to make sure that you had a chance to see them prior to me sending them to the ABO.
Everybody filled out their assessment form?
Yes,
Yes.
we have to bang a few people in the head, but yes, we get them back. Thank you, Felix.
Okay, so we will send those to the ABO and we will discuss them again in April. And the next couple of, the next item, the ethics forms, I just wanted to remind everybody to get your ethics forms in if you have not already. I need to do mine. Guilty. So everyone, we can send around reminders to anyone that we haven't received them yet, but just a reminder, those need to be done soon.
Should be good.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the job creation numbers. So like we discussed with the LDC and also like we discussed in Paris, we are required to send the job creation numbers to the ABO. I'm just going to share my screen so you guys can see this. Try to anyway. Hold on one second. So this was included in your packets. For the IDA, as you can tell, we have the project name, the year that they were certified, how many jobs they had, how many jobs they told us they would create in their first and second year. And then I only included 19 and 20 just for a point of reference, because you know the chart is huge, it would never fit reasonably. But so as you can see, as you go through these, our projects are, even with COVID, our projects are doing a nice job with their job creation numbers. We have some that you know are not quite there, but for the most part, there's very few. I'm pleased to say that we're going to have to bring back for discussion. So you know, and some of these that might look problematic, they either their job creation numbers haven't started yet. So we have like CD Ramsey is showing as 0, but that's because we didn't expect this. We aren't at year 1 yet. So we're fine with that. There's a couple that we need to bring back and have discussions with, but as in years past, what I suggest is that Fred and I go through these numbers and sort of pare them down and bring back ones that are, you know, that we think we need a little more information on, and we can work on getting information back to them. You know, some of these that are below the threshold terminated last year. So, you know, we're still required to gather the information because they were in our system for part of the year last year, but there's really not much that could or should be done if they're below the agreed number.
Also, Lisa, if you look at like Excel, that's the hospitality industry. We understand what happened over the past year. So, you know, obviously the board has already had discussions about how they'll take those types of projects into account and
100%.
circumstances.
And there's some projects that, as Fred and I go through here, there's going to be, you know, we'll still ask them for explanation so we have everything documented, but Jim's 100% right. There's some projects that it's just beyond
hotels and such.
Yeah. It's funny, I skipped right over that one. I knew it was a hotel. I didn't even bring it up. So just so you guys have this, we'll bring this back, but if you wanted to review any of these numbers, just for you to be aware of.
Lisa, do you have anything else? I don't think we need executive session, do we?
No, we don't.
No.
Just a reminder, if you have not done your harassment training, I'm harassing you to do your harassment training.
I banged everything out last week.
Okay, thank you, Marty. And
Marty,
have
how long did it take you? About a half an hour?
Well, like I said, like Lisa said, she hounded and hounded and I did the one thing and then I got another email saying I didn't do something from last year. So I said, you know what? Yeah, about a half hour.
But how long did the harassment training help?
Oh, it was less than a half hour, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Okay.
50 screens.
I think it was,
Slides, guess you could
I
call
think
it.
it was about 20 minutes, depending upon how fast you can read.
If there's, well, let me ask, anything else that anyone would like to bring up? Hearing none, I thank you very much, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second to Felix.
Make the vote easy. Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes.
Mrs. Scheich,
Yes.
Mr. Braun votes yes. We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Take
Be well,
care.
everyone.